Absolutely, another beautiful day in Southern Virginia. Virginia International Raceway, one of the most picturesque racetracks in all of North America, and site for race number 3 of the weekend for the VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. I say third race of the weekend, but in reality, it is the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park race number 2 that had to be postponed because of weather and then international travel problems. So we'll run that race right now, and that means it is the field that was entered at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. We'll be missing a couple of cars from race 1 and 2 of the weekend here. Welcome in, everyone. Brian Till, Ryan Marine with you. Ryan, an absolutely another gorgeous day here at VIR. Nice early morning start. Lights on the Mustang pace car, and we'll get this field rolling here in just a second. I say Southern Virginia, it is literally right on the border with North Carolina, just east of Danville, Virginia, a few miles. And this racetrack literally has everything: uphill, downhill, high speed, low speed, you name it, it's here, Ryan.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great track, super demanding as well, very technical, and also it punishes you for any mistakes. Looking at some of the hot spots, though, turn 1, the horseshoe, great passing opportunity. Turn 12 down into Oak Tree, you can pass there if you're brave, and then turn 14, that's called roller coaster. It's a big plunge down the hill, which leads to the crucial turn 17, known as Hog Pen, onto the pit straight to start another lap at VIR.
Yeah, super cool racetrack. And when it comes time to set up the car, too, I think you're looking for a car that's going to work well on the long run. And we've seen that over the first 2 events that are here. The track is pretty abrasive, not just because of the asphalt nature, but because of the high loads on the corners back and forth. We talk about race number 2 from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Let's revisit race number 1. We're at the start. Jonathan Woolridge aboard the 54 gets a great start, but then didn't take long for a couple of problems to appear. Roland Kranz was the first to have an issue, flat tire, and he's going to go off down at turn 2.
Disappointing for Roland, but certainly for Woolridge, who was on home soil, qualifying on the pole position, led the early stages of the race, but came under pressure. Valentino Catalano around the outside. That was for the overall lead of the race, a lead that he would not relinquish. And then problems here with Angus Rogers going for a spin with a little bit of help there off the nose of the BMW. Angus, though, able to continue.
Scary moments here. Luff front departs from Oscar Tuño's Duquesne chassis as he comes on in the front straightaway. That could have been catastrophic if it had been in one of the higher speed sections of the racetrack. So you're going to have a problem. Oscar, fortunate to have it where he did. And then you think about the GTDX category. Remember, multiple classes here, 3 of them. AJ Moss aboard the red Ferrari squeezes Adam Adelson down towards the wall, and that's going to be a problem for him, a penalty. But in GSX, a win for Kiko Porto.
In GTDX, Jake Walker back to victory lane, kicking off this win streak that he's on right now, and he's edging closer to Adelson in the points. And overall, Valentino Catalano able to hang on to pick up a win. He's also on a nice win streak right now and in firm control of the championship.
Yeah, I was going to say, talk about win streaks, Ryan. Valentino Catalano has just been the class of the LMP3 field. You look at the wins, 6 wins so far. That includes both races so far here this weekend. We'll see if we can do the hat trick and make it 3 for 3. There's a look at the grid for your race today, race number 3 of the weekend. Like we said, the postponed race from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, 45 minutes, 3 classes, prototypes up front, then GTDX, which is your GT3-based machineries like you'd see in the IMSA VP SportsCar Championship, then the GSX category, GT4-based GT cars like you would see in Michelin Pilot Challenge.
Exactly. Good mix of cars here with the different classes, and how they've played together has been a big storyline. Certainly in GSX, it had a big part to play yesterday, and Kiko Porto holding on for the win. It looked like Stephen Clemens was perhaps lining him up to try and take another win, but Porto played the traffic well. We'll see how it plays out today.
Such a great training ground for drivers, teams, crews, engineers, you name it, as the ladder system works so well here in the IMSA paddock. Catalano with a big jump at the start. I wonder if it was too big. Did he go too soon? Green flag waves, a separation between prototypes and GT, and you're going to see the GTDX cars into the back of the prototype field relatively quickly here, Ryan. We've seen it the last 2 races. Remember, GTDX, anti-lock braking systems, traction control, so they're going to get up to speed a little bit quicker than the prototypes will. Prototypes with traction control, but no anti-lock braking system, as a big dice up front in GTDX right now. Adam Adelson has the point as they go through turn 5.
Yeah, that's massive. He's the points leader coming in, but hasn't won in quite a while. Jake Walker's been chipping away at that advantage, but today, unlike the previous 2 races this weekend, it's Adelson able to get the jump, makes the outside work through Horseshoe, kept it there when the track came back his way, and he now leads his closest challenger in the points coming up the hill for the first time.
Hats off to Matt Dickin aboard the red and black number 36 prototype, who kind of moved out of the way, let Adelson and Walker through as they started to get to the climbing S's. He knew they were in a battle for the lead, and he knew he was dropping back from the prototypes a little bit, lets them go and lets them have their race. Adelson up front, and like you said, for Jake Walker, he's done everything he needed to do after Daytona when they had a dismal weekend, scoring minimal points there. Walker trying to claw back his way into this championship, but Adelson has been like a gnat. He hasn't won a lot of races, but he just won't go away, Ryan. Keeps finishing second, and Walker's gaining ground, but 30 points at a time, it's going to be hard to wrestle that championship away from Adam Adelson as they dive through that final corner, hog pen onto the front straightaway. The green Porsche of Adam Adelson leads right now in GTDX.
Yeah, the math just isn't in Jake's favor if Adam keeps finishing in second. That's the way it's been the last 3 races, 3 straight runner-ups while Jake Walker has won. Here comes Walker, though. He knows he has to win, has to finish ahead of this Porsche if he's going to have any shot at all at the championship at the season finale at Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta, making an aggressive look to the inside there, but has to back out of it. Adelson consolidating his advantage, but this is going to be a real challenge to hang on. That pace in the BMW looks strong.
Jake Walker, 6 wins on the season, and he has been on a roll of late, 3 in a row, and then 3rd place finish in the second race at Mid-Ohio, and then 3 wins before that. But for Adam Adelson, I'm thinking 2 very different mindsets right now, Ryan, between these 2 cars. Adelson wants to win races, no doubt, but more important to him is that championship at the end. He's not going to risk anything. For Jake Walker, he has to risk everything. He has to finish in front of Adam Adelson and make ground each and every time they're on the racetrack, or there is no way that championship is going to come to him. So I think 2 very different mindsets in those 2 cars up front right now. Walker aboard that bright yellow Turner Motorsport BMW, trying to give chase to Adelson aboard the Porsche.
100%. The good news for Adam is he's been in this position before, won a GT3 championship over an SRO a year ago, so he's been in some of these title bouts over the last couple of years and has the experience of knowing how to deal with these situations. Meanwhile, here in GSX, Kiko Porto, who won yesterday, finished second to the red Supra of Stephen Clemens in the first race of the weekend, is out in front once again with his teammate Ian Porter, keeping tabs on him, following close behind. But watch that red Supra as the run goes on, Brian. What we've seen over the course of the 2 races so far this weekend, the BSI team seems to have that car in a real sweet spot for the long runs.
Yeah, it has been tire management in GSX for the first 2 rounds. I understand 36 of Brian Thetis might have a bit of an issue. The door open on that prototype, and the problem is it's right-hand drive, Ryan. So reaching across to grab that door and close it is going to be a difficult task. There is a strap that you can grab and pull, but that strap is actually the latch to open the door. So if you don't let go of it in time, you may get the door closed, but it's just going to reopen again.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for Brian, who's had a solid weekend and figures to get a good result here today with the diminished class due to the fact that a couple of the cars that we've seen so far this weekend weren't eligible to take part in this race, having either not been entered or having a different driver entered in that car back at the CTMP round, which we're doing a makeup race for here. I think the other prototype, Matt Dickin, has had a problem too, because he came into the pits on the last lap.
Yeah, he came in and got that door closed. So, as we said, from the car, he couldn't get it done. So he had to come to pit lane. But look at the battle in GTDX. At the end of the straightaway, the back straightaway, Madison Avenue, Jake Walker really putting the pressure on Adam Adelson. And as we said moments ago, two very different mindsets right now. Adelson wants to win races, but he wants to win the championship. How much will he risk to stay up front, and how much will Jake Walker risk to get by that Porsche?
We're about to find out. Here he comes again. He'll try the move that Adelson used to get the lead of the race at the very start, trying to make the outside line work here through the opening sequence, but Adelson a little bit too strong in that Porsche, covering off the inside into NASCAR bend here, but it forces him out wide. Maybe that opens the door up for Walker to poke his nose to the inside. I
think Jake Walker is trying to get Adelson down to the inside in one, and as they come out, he wants to do the over-under. But Adam understands that, and when he comes off two, he just parks it in the middle of the road and doesn't give that inside move, that under move, so to speak, to Jake Walker, and thwarts that attack there. So Walker has seen that. He's going to have to come up with a little bit different strategy to see if he can find a way by the 24.
It's a bit like the battle we saw on Friday, isn't it, in GSX with Kiko Porto and Stephen Clemens fighting for the lead of the race. And Clemens tried a bunch of different tactics, never did the same thing twice in back-to-back laps, and ultimately that was what opened the door for him to finally make the move and come through to take his second win of the season. Down Madison Avenue here, though, Brian, look at the BMW power here coming alongside the Porsche. He was this close last time, but couldn't quite make it stick into the braking zone. Will this time be different? I don't know. Adelson's not willing to give it up.
Great stuff, and it's such a difficult corner to get that pass done. You've got to clear, and then you got to get back over in front of your competition before you move back to the right. Jake Walker can get side by side, but he just cannot get by. Justin Di Benedetto with a problem coming out of Oak Tree, drops a wheel, loses a little bit of ground, but Walker gaining ground down the front straightaway once again. Same position, deja vu all over again. Can he do the over-under this time? No, he's too far to the outside. He's going to see if he can go the long way.
Can't do it, though. Adelson covers him off and again guards the inside to NASCAR bend, turn 3 here at VIR, and Walker has no recourse but to settle back in line. This is awesome stuff from Adam Adelson, a masterclass in defensive driving, not blocking, but covering off any move proactively. This was the issue a moment ago for Di Benedetto, who was in 4th at the time. He's in a really good battle for 4th and 5th in points right now. And it's actually tied on points coming into the weekend. So every position lost could be crucial for him in that battle.
45 minutes are VP Racing SportsCar Challenge events. And so for Jake Walker, you've got to believe time is on his side in that battle with Adam Adelson. Now you go to GSX, and this is where the fight has been all weekend long. The racing has been absolutely great. Stephen Clemens aboard the bright red number 76 from BSI Racing there on the back wing of Ian Porter, the 68, I should say, out of Rafa Racing Stables. And we've seen this battle throughout the weekend. The 76 of Clemens seems to have the long run over both the 68 and the 8 of Kiko Porto. But talked to Stephen Clemens yesterday, or after yesterday's racing, he said, I think we just kind of freed up the car a little bit, used up too much tire. We could attack, but late in the going, I didn't have the tire to do it like I did in race number 1. So we've gone backwards a little bit with the setup, see if we can find that long run pace again. Speaking of again, it just seems to be the same thing down in turn 1, lap after lap for GTDX. Walker trying to find a way by, and Adam Adelson saying, nope, you don't have enough right now.
Well, how impressive is this from Adelson? Although he does go a little wide that time, able to get back online, though, to cover off the move again proactively. That's so important from an officiating standpoint, and that keeps Walker behind. But maybe for the first time, we're starting to see a little bit of a crack in the foundation there for Adelson. Walker's pressure maybe starting to have an effect, and now he does get to the inside and get to the lead of the race.
Yeah, I think the problem for Adam is he didn't have the car, right? And so you're trying to hold on tight. Speaking of holding on tight, look at the battle in GSX. We said this is going to be there. It's been there the last 2 races here, and it is heating up again. Clemens working on the setup of that 76, wants to find his way back to victory lane. He's going to have to get past the 68 of Ian Porter first so he can hunt down Kiko Porto up front. And what I was saying about Adelson, I feel like, Ryan, in driving that protective line, he had to keep his hands in a little more steering, keeping the corners a little bit tighter. That's going to work on those Michelin tires, degrade them a little bit more. Walker was allowed to let his car run wide a little freer, and what that does is save those Michelin tires. The big run off of turn 5 is what sets this up.
Yes, and then here I think is that risk management you were talking about earlier. No sense trying to risk things in a really high-speed, high-consequence corner there for Adelson. Meanwhile, this fight with Clemens and Porter, a little bit of contact maybe. Clemens able to get alongside, but can't complete the pass. Porter's been really, really strong in defense.
Just super respectful racing between, I'm going to say, these 3 drivers, even though Kiko Porto just a little bit in front of this duo. And a problem for the 72, big slide off. That's Frank Depew. And the great thing about VIR, when the grass is dry, there is a long way to go usually before you get to something solid. The problem is all of that grass being out there means when you come back on, John Deere green has a different meaning here at VIR. You're going to pick up that grass. It's going to pack the radiator. And if you can't find a place where you can jump on the brakes pretty hard and dump that radiator, get that grass off the front grille, you're just going to pack it in there and you risk overheating the engine.
And they'll be keeping a close eye on the telemetry on the 72. Frank had a good day yesterday. Top 10 finish in Michelin Pilot Challenge. Robin Liddell had a big charge up through the field late in the going there to help secure them a good result, but it's been a bit more of a fraught experience, I'm afraid, here in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge this weekend. But for now, at least, he continues on and hopefully will show no ill effects from all the grass that he picked up in that off-course excursion.
Saying just before that excitement that these drivers, the top 3 drivers in GSX, have shown such respect, such professionalism in their racing over the 2 races that we've had here. We saw the same thing from Clemens and Porter that last time through turn 2 with that little bit of incidental contact, not a big deal, and Clemens making sure that he stayed off that right rear of Ian Porter in front of him, trying to be as clean as they can possibly be, run as close as they possibly can. Depew to pit lane to get that radiator out of the grass, and he'll head back out.
Yeah, you kind of knew that was likely to be the outcome with the amount of grass that was there. You hope that it doesn't cause a problem, but I think that's probably the smart move, to be proactive and make sure the engine temp doesn't start to climb to a level where it can do any damage. Look at the lead that Jake Walker has already pulled out on Adam Adelson, 2.8 seconds, Brian, and he did that quickly. It kind of illustrates the advantage that Jake has had all weekend long. It was a great move by Adelson on the opening lap to get to the lead, but this goes to show just how difficult it was going to be to try and keep the BMW in check.
Obviously, the second half of the straightaway for the BMW, big advantages there, seems to have a little bit more top end than the Porsche right now. But I do believe that tire management and the way that Adam Adelson had to drive kind of degraded those Michelin tires a little bit quicker. That's what allowed Walker the good run off of turn 5. We saw Adam Adelson with a little bit of slide, not able to get the power down, more lateral movement instead of longitudinal movement. He didn't jump off the corner. Jake Walker did, because I think he had a little better rear Michelin tire. And yeah, when they got to turn 7, I think Adam just said, you know what, go right ahead. Championship is going to be mine if I keep doing what I'm doing right now.
And Adam, too, has to think about the other element of his weekend, which is he still has the WeatherTech Championship race to go later on today. He's a busy guy, maybe doing as much driving this weekend as anybody here at VIR with the 3 races in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. And Porter goes off. Oh, can he keep it off the tires? Yes, he can. How many times, though, have we seen that over the years, Brian? That tricky approach to Oak Tree, catching a driver out.
Oh, wow. I mean, we've seen it multiple times throughout this weekend, right, Ryan? And you come up there, it's such a difficult corner. You come into turn 11, you're never off the brakes, you're never not turning the car, and if you get just a little bit wide, lose that front end at the plateau there, car's going to drift out wide, you're going to miss the corner. Great job by Ian Porter by keeping it out of the tires, but from the apex out, you can just see, did not have the grip in those front tires. There's a little bit of a plateau there. You come up into 11, uphill, and around about the apex of 11, it goes to a tabletop. It flattens out, and if you don't keep the brakes on and you haven't slowed the car down enough, you'll lose that grip on the front end at that plateau, and that's exactly what happened to Ian Porter. Now, for Stephen Clemens, what kind of a race car does he have underneath him? Let's watch and see if he can close down on Kiko Porto in front. And yesterday he said, I think I charged too hard and then didn't have the tire to do the job with once I got there. What is he going to do today? He's got just over 29 minutes. He needs to close the distance to Porto, but in his own words from yesterday, don't burn the car down getting there. Don't use up the tire getting there, so that once you're there, you've got something to battle with.
Well, we talk about this being a development series, and these are the lessons that we're seeing some of these young drivers learning right before our eyes, which will make them better drivers at the tail end of this year and whatever they step into in the future as well. Clemens has had the fastest race lap in GSX in both of the first two races so far this weekend. We haven't seen that speed unleashed completely here in this race, but now for the first time he has some clean air in front of him, and we'll see what he can do. Credit though to Ian Porter, who put that miscue behind him, and he just did his best sector one time on this lap. So Ian undeterred after his little off-track moments.
Yeah, Ryan, you know, hooking the fish is one thing. Getting it in the boat, something entirely different. He may get to the rear wing of Kiko Porto, but then what does he do with it? Like we were just saying, will he have the tire to go to work with? And obviously, Kiko Porto does not have the success that he has because he's an easy mark, right? You look at the victories so far this season, 6 wins, 8 podiums in 9 races. So like I said, for Clemens, getting there is one thing, getting by him is another. But as I said earlier, the racing between these drivers in GSX has been exemplary all weekend long. I'm looking forward to, I'm kind of rooting for Clemens right now to get there because I want to see the battle once he does.
You're not going to like this news then. Kiko Porto was about a second faster on the last lap. I think he got the word that Stephen had gotten around his teammate Ian Porter and consequently wanted to put his head down and maybe build that margin a little bit, send a message to Stephen Clemens that this isn't going to come easy. I think the message has been received. We'll see what Clemens can do now, but he gave up another 3/10 in Sector 1 here on this lap. That was about the same margin on the previous lap too. So maybe it's a case of after 2 races, the Rafa Racing team has this super dialed in a little bit better for the long runs, and Kiko Porto might have a bit sharper of a weapon to work with than we've seen over the previous 2 days.
Well, and I was going to say just that. You think about this Rafa Racing organization, and they have not had the success throughout the sports car paddocks around North America because they're lucky. They've done it because they're good, as Valentino Catalano now working his way through GSX traffic, your overall leader, looking for yet another win on the season, 6 wins so far for the 19-year-old, looking for yet another one. He wants to wrap up this championship. I'm not sure he can do it mathematically here, but another good finish in the first round. The final weekend at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta would do that for him. And right now, head down, focus forward. The great thing about Valentino Catalano, the thing that impresses me is even without the pressure behind him, he doesn't make a mistake. And what's the problem with Jake Walker? Did he have a problem up in 11? Because Adam Adelson right back by in front. Walker coming back on him now. Take a look. Same place, same incident that we saw with Porter.
Wow. Don't see that out of Jake Walker very often, but and man, that was super close on the exit too. Adelson was very committed to keeping his speed up. out of the corner and down Madison Avenue, and that was a good bit of avoidance there to avoid going into the back of the BMW. But this is massive for the championship. Adelson back to the lead. This would help him extend that lead. And remember, he's looking for his first win since race 2 at Mid-Ohio. That was quite some time ago.
Unforced error there by Jake Walker. He's going to have to do it all over again. He's got the pick in front of him of the GSX car of Angus Rogers, and Adelson's going to have to deal with that Porsche first. And what I was going to say about Valentino Catalano, Ryan, was, oh no, and a problem for Clemens.
My goodness, left rear is down. Piece of driving to hang on to that car. He's going to have to limp this thing back around, but that is absolutely heartbreaking for the fastest driver in GSX all throughout the weekend. The fastest race laps in races 1 and 2, got that win in race 1. But this one looks like it's going sideways for him. He still has a long way to try and limp that car back to the pits.
Good job of keeping it under control coming up through the climbing S's with that left rear being down. But yeah, this is going to dash his hopes for sure. It's done and dusted, but you don't give up on it. You get the car back to pit lane, you get a new tire on it, and you never know. But I'll tell you what, this battle's going to have to work past that 76. Probably down through the roller coaster, and there's going to be some debris on the racetrack as well. You see the smoke. They'll see the same thing as they come over the hill, and they know they've got a stricken car in front of them. They're going to have to do battle here. Walker looks to the inside, and perhaps he sees that smoke and goes, you know what? Maybe behind the 24 right now is the safer place to be. And this is difficult for Clemens. He's on the left side of the road. He wants to let this traffic go. Great job by Stephen Clemens to do it. Great job by Adelson and Walker to get by. Now Clemens will be able to move to the right side for the pit entry there. But back to what I was saying about Catalano several minutes ago before Walker had his problem. The great thing is when he has been unpressured, he has not made a mistake. He hasn't let the lack of pressure behind lull him into a false sense of security and into a mistake. And I almost feel like that's what happened to Jake Walker. He got the lead, he's pulling away from Adelson, and then an unforced error. Catalano has been really good about, once he gets a lead, staying focused forward and not making mistakes. Jake Walker, that little bit of lapse in attention perhaps up in turn 11. I don't know if there could have been something on the racetrack or not, but definitely an unforced error. Walker's off, and now he's going to have to fight yet again to get back past Adelson.
Yeah, that is got to be so frustrating for Jake, who's been so strong this weekend and had to fight to get to the lead in the first place, so he knows how challenging it's going to be to get by Adam. And Adam, I suspect, is a bit reinvigorated by the fact he's gotten to the lead of the race. Now they have some traffic to contend with here, though. Does it balk Adelson at all? Coming out of Oak Tree, this is where he's already been vulnerable, so if he didn't get a great exit, this could open the door here for Walker to get back to the lead.
Second half of the straightaway is the problem for Adelson, and you see it right there as the BMW. It's really the second half of the straightaway where you see that advantage just in the spotlight big time, and Walker able to use that, gets position. And like we said earlier, if you can get position there, driver's left, and clear the car that's on the right, then you can turn back for the apex of 14. Walker able to do that this time, and I guarantee you what, Ryan, turn 11 is not going to be a problem for the next 21 and a half minutes, because Jake Walker learned his lesson.
Yeah, I think he's got enough pace in hand to back up the entry to that corner, not take any risk, and just try and solidify this lead and hopefully this win, because he knows he needs it to even stay in the hunt for the championship. The problem is, if Adam Adelson keeps finishing second, there's just not enough points disparity between first and second. It's 30 points, and then there's not enough races left where these kinds of results, a first for Walker and a second for Adelson, wouldn't be enough for him to overcome the deficit that was built with that disastrous season opener in Daytona. Good patience here, though, working through the traffic and not taking the risk that could cost him another position again.
Tell you what, good read by Adam Adelson, though. He kind of backed away from that battle as Walker was trying to get past Chris Walsh in the GSX Porsche and tried to get a run on Walker. Walker thwarted that with his move around GSX car in front of him. But again, multi-class racing, and these two drivers that you're looking at, especially Adam Adelson, who is a championship winning driver, races in the WeatherTech Championship he knows multi-class racing, and he knows sometimes giving up at the beginning of a corner to get a run through when you've got slower traffic in front of you is your way to kind of offset the momentum or the power advantage that you perceive that the car in front of you has.
Right, it's part of the racecraft in this type of racing, endurance racing, multi-class racing in particular. There's an art to passing, there's an art to being passed as well when you're not in the top class and trying to lose as little time in both of those situations. Walker has to work his way back past Clemens now, who is back out on track, by the way, but has lost a lot of positions. He's all the way down to 8th in class. That is catastrophic for Steven. Again, not of his making whatsoever. You have to feel for him on a weekend where his pace has been so strong.
Absolutely, and if you think I'm being tough on Jake Walker about talking about unforced errors, I'm just gonna say, I know of what I speak. This was before you were born, Ryan, I'm probably pretty sure. But I was about to win my first Formula Atlantic race at Lime Rock Park, and I had a substantial lead. And the reason that I can talk about unforced errors is because I was going down no-name straight counting points and prize money and forgot about the new chicane that was up at the uphill at Lime Rock, and I spun out of the lead and consequently out of my first victory in an Atlantic car. So yes, when your mind wanders in a race car, even though it's hooked up and things seem to be on rails, any lack of attention, any loss of concentration can be catastrophic. Been there, done that, so I understand it.
I think I might have good news for you. I think it's good news, at least. I think I was born. Was this 1990?
Well, I didn't mention the year. You didn't have to
I'm looking
do
at
that.
your resume, and I'm seeing a North American Formula Atlantic East competition in 1990. Would this be the year in question?
That would be the year in question, Ryan. You are exactly right.
I was maybe not walking, but at least crawling this earth at that point in time.
Well, thank you, Ryan. I feel better now.
I wasn't sure if it would make you feel better or worse, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, though. I mean, truly, that's what I was doing. It was I raised my hand. I said it at the time. I'm like, I'm an idiot. This is what I was doing. But I don't think Jake Walker was counting points and prize money. I think, you know, if your attention wanders at all, especially in a difficult corner like turn 11, you don't feel like you're on the limit. That's the thing. Even when everything is perfect and you're going as fast as you can, that corner doesn't feel like you're on the limit. You're just, everything's good. But if you miss it by the slightest amount because you just happen to glance in your mirror or did something and you weren't quite as focused as you would be if there was somebody right there on your rear wing, you can get bit, and I think that's what happened. He didn't get bit big time. He didn't find the tires or anything. He barely left the racetrack. Actually, not nearly as far off the racetrack as he and Porter was, but at the same point in time, that little lack of concentration can bite you. And it could have been a mechanical issue. Maybe it wasn't a lack of concentration at all, but at this level, like I was saying about Valentino Catalano, the thing that is impressive to me about him, with the lack of pressure that he has, especially today, still putting in the laps, very consistent laps, quicker than anybody else on the racetrack, and all he's doing is, I think in his mind, I'm qualified. I just need to go out there and be as fast as I can each and every lap, keep it right out there on the edge, but not over the edge, and do what I need to do. Keep focusing, keep pressing, because if I don't press, I may lose that concentration, and I may lose the car.
Well, what makes it all the more impressive is he's not even 20 years old yet.
No.
He turns 20 at the beginning of November, and yet he drives like a veteran. And you look at, you know, he's been racing at a pretty high level now for half a decade already at that young age, going back to his days in French Formula 4 back in 2020. So he does bring a surprising amount of experience for a 19-year-old, but he drives like someone who's much older than that, and I agree. I mean, when he's needed to be fast this year, he's been fast. When he's needed to be consistent and mistake-free, he can flip that switch and show that side of his skill set too, which, again, you know, we've talked about it all weekend, where this is his chance to make a name for himself in North America, having won titles and won races in Europe, but maybe open some eyes here in the States. And I think if you're a prospective team owner looking for a driver for the future, and this is someone who has showcased that he's pretty well-rounded and presumably would have a great deal of upside too. When you think of a 19-year-old, he's almost certainly not an unfinished product here and has plenty of room to grow still.
And you wonder about Gebhardt, right? I mean, obviously this team very successful in Europe, very successful now in North America in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. We talk about the ladder system here. Who's to say that Gebhardt Intralogistics isn't going to look at it and go, you know what, an LMP2 car would be the next step for us, and we've brought these drivers through this system. Maybe those drivers move on with the team if the team indeed has their sights set on something, you know, even greater ahead. Chris Walsh with a good run in the podium position right now in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge in the GSX category.
Exactly. I wanted to give him a call because he's in line now for his third podium of the season if he can keep this thing going. And with his fourth place finish yesterday, he moved into a tie with Justin DiBenedetto for effectively fourth in points, and I believe Chris would have the tiebreaker by virtue of having finished second on a couple of occasions. DiBenedetto doesn't have a finish that high, and even with a little bit of damage, it looks like, possibly on the right front of that car, he's been super consistent. He's put together a really solid year, despite the fact, Brian, he switched between teams midway through the year. Drove a BMW for Karis Kallis at the beginning of the season, and then got thrown a lifeline here by the Tooth Autosport team to jump aboard this Porsche, and I think it's really rewarded them with some solid runs here in the second half of the year.
Well, like you said, the consistency of it, it's been quiet consistency, right? I mean, hasn't put on a great big show and been in the spotlight, but he's always been there. And what that shows me is a driver that is focused on doing what they can do with the equipment that they have on that day. I'm not going to press too hard and make a mistake. Spotlight like that you don't want. You want the spotlight by standing on the podium. And like you said, he has been incredibly consistent and getting better and better week in, week out. This Tooth opportunity with this team has been big for him, and now he gets back on a podium, and he's gonna draw attention to himself by that consistency, that performance. Typically pretty flawless, not making a lot of mistakes, and that's what you want to see in a driver. And again, that's what these series are about. Stepping stones, ladder series to get you moving forward in professional sports car racing in North America.
This is a step for him too. He won a touring car championship in SRO last year, won 8 races, had a dominant season, but it's a big step into one of these GT4 cars, and he's done it well. One thing about his background, he's been in the spotlight before. He's been in pressure moments before. He played college football at Valparaiso University in Indiana. He also was a part of the U.S. national bobsled team for a number of years. So again, he's used to competing in big moments even before he got into motorsports. And since going amateur racing effectively back in 2020, it's been a rapid ascension for Chris, who is also still an active member of the U.S. Air Force. So he's got a really interesting background, really passionate about his motorsports. And maybe my favorite random fact about Chris is that I once asked him who his favorite racing driver was when he kind of got into the sport, and he said Schumacher, but Ralph, not
wow.
Michael, Ralph Schumacher, which is not an answer I was expecting.
And you said why?
I did, yes.
And the answer?
I don't remember, sadly. That's kind of a disappointing coda to the story. I don't remember what his answer to it was, but maybe I was so blown away by the answer that it never quite registered.
You know, it's always fascinating to me because I feel like athletes from other sports transition well into motorsports, because it doesn't matter whether you're alignment and you're blocking. You think that's such a physical kind of sport, and all you have to do is knock somebody on their rear end, but there's a lot of thinking that goes with it, planning, strategizing. Where's that lineman across from me going to move? What play is this? Where do I need to do? What is my priority in this deal? And really, motorsports is the same way. We talk about, you know, conserving tires. In multi-class racing, multi-driver racing, what's my job as the starting driver? What's my job as a finishing driver? You know, all that kind of stuff is different, and you take all of those things into play, the football, the bobsledding, the Air Force side of things, all cerebral kind of sports, and all with a physicality to it where that person needs to be sensitive to the inputs that they're given, whether they're knocking somebody on their rear end in football or whether you're on a bobsled, feeling that sled on the ice. Where do I need to lean? How do I need to help my teammates in this multi-person bobsled configuration to make sure that we get the most out of this right now? It's always fascinating to me how you can take that mindset and apply it to motorsports, but it works.
Well, we talked about it with Ian Porter all season, haven't we? Where he's competed at a super high level in esports, in Call of Duty, and he has talked openly about how the preparation, how dealing with pressure, these are all things that carry over to a much different discipline here in racing. So not at all surprised to see that there is some correlation between the athletic career of Chris Walsh and then what he's done in a race car, and then you throw in the discipline that's required to be a member of the armed forces, and I think it's no surprise that he's been able to have this rapid climb through the ranks.
All right, Valentino Catalano is going to have to work his way past Matt Dickin now. Dickin, very experienced driver, very respectful. I would think this would happen very easily out of the snake and on the way to the climbing S's as Catalano, the second of the prototypes in the order there, around the Ligier chassis. You look at the front end of those cars right there, you get an idea of the Duquesne, which is in the hands of Catalano, kind of that pointy center section, and then for Matt Dickin, a much more rounded center section of the fuselage, the cockpit, the tub, if you want to call it that. And two manufacturers right now, I'm interested to see the new car, the LMP3 car that's running in Europe currently, is going to be legal for North America competition next year in the VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. Excited to see those cars, different power plant, different look on some of the chassis. It's going to be exciting times.
It is. We're seeing that car already racing in a couple series overseas, and the cars look awesome. The competition's been really good, and I expect we're going to see something similar. By all accounts, there were a lot of teams that are eager to jump into the championship with the new car, and maybe their hang-up this year has been, as you pointed out on a previous show, the investment that's required to go racing with the chassis that's going to be obsolete in a short amount of time. Oh no, we were talking about Chris Walsh and he ends up in the tire barrier, Brian.
That is a big off. That's at a hog pen. The turn onto the front straightaway. Incredibly quick corner, makes contact with the tire wall, but immediately across the racetrack and to pit in, significant damage on that number 22 Porsche Cayman. Let's see what happens. Loses it coming off the apex curb. Can't quite wrestle it under control, and boom.
Happens quick. This place will reach out and grab you, and that's what happened to Chris Walsh here. That was a high-speed impact with the tire barrier. Good thing it's there, those bundles of tires to cover the Armco. That is something I'm sure that Chris will be thankful for once he has a moment or two to reflect on this. But how frustrating. Was in line for a podium finish. And as it runs, that promotes Justin DiBenedetto, the guy he's fighting closest in points, up to third, and has a chance to have a big impact in that battle for fourth and fifth in points.
Just think about what's going on in that corner as Chris comes down and gets on the apex curb. That's going to lift up the right side of the car, and then there's a compression right after that. So the car kind of comes up, compresses. He's already sliding a little bit. That compression gives him a lot of grip, but he's got his correction in on the steering to arrest that slide. And when it compresses and his hands are turned to the left, the car turns left instantly. Really difficult position there. You want to be on the apex curb a little bit, but that kind of rebound up off the curb is what makes the car light. He's got to steer into it, Ryan, right? He's got to arrest that slide, but then the car compresses. He's got those hands in and cannot get them straight fast enough. And the car hooks violently to the left.
Wow. Well,
so easy to do in slow motion, isn't it?
I know.
So easy for us to be right in slow motion sitting in our seats.
Well, anyone who's sat behind the wheel of a car, even for a track day or amateur racing, whatever, you know how quickly it can bite you. And unfortunately for Chris, this is a learning moment here. But that car will need some work. The good news is there's a substantial amount of time to make the repairs before the final two races of the season in conjunction with Motul Petit Le Mans down at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. But boy, frustrating way for a solid weekend to come to an end.
Concern for me, if I'm Adam Adelson, who just came through that corner, or anyone else, is when Chris was able to get the car moving again and came across the racetrack straight to pit in, which I don't blame him for at all. Concern would be, is there any fluid that came out of that car when he crossed the racetrack? I do believe where he crossed it, you still have some cornering load. I think it's dissipating on the way off of that corner. But my concern would be if there's any fluid down there and you've got some cornering load in the car, you hit it, you slip a little bit, and guess what? There's no little bit to give there at the exit of Hog Pen.
It's true. That, as we've seen, is a trouble spot around this track. And hopefully by now, I think everybody should have seen the corner at least once and seen the state of it, whether or not the debris is still there, and can make their decisions accordingly. But yeah, good point there for Adelson and everybody else for that matter, just to keep their eyes up. And that's also important information for the teams to pass along so as not to catch out any of these drivers here in the final 5 minutes.
It's why we race, right? You never know. You've got to run here 45 minutes trouble-free, and for Chris Walsh, just that little bit of an error there cost him big time. Right now, Valentino Catalano out in front, and if you think you recognize perhaps Gebhardt, that name, well, Gebhardt raced in IMSA GT 1985 to 1991, so no strangers to racing here in North America under the IMSA banner. Great to see them back in IMSA VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. And as we talked about for next year, remember this multi-class racing here in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge is relatively new. It's attracted a lot of attention. Obviously, the GSX category, well subscribed. We expect to see a lot more GTDX cars next year. And for prototype teams, as you mentioned, there is a lot of interest. And I think there was a little bit of, let's sit back and watch and see how it works. Hey, it's working really well. But I don't want to jump in right now and buy a car because I know a new car is coming next year. So let's sit, watch, and plan. We'll gather up that new equipment, that new LMP3 based equipment, and we'll be ready to go in 2026. And I think that's the interest that the series is already seeing looking forward.
Well, the other hook is the recent announcement that there will be an endurance component as well, a handful of endurance races that will at least be available for the LMP3 teams next year. It's to be determined what teams, what classes I should say might be accompanying them in those long distance races, multi-driver format races that are being added to the calendar next year, which I think is also an exciting addition when you talk about this as a training ground for teams and drivers trying to make it to the WeatherTech Championship or even a Michelin Pilot Challenge, which is more of an endurance format. To have some longer races where you get used to the pit stops, you get used to the driver changes, all the strategy as well that comes in play, I think that's a very exciting prospect.
And it's not an easy decision for the series with 2 laps to go from here at VIR. It's not an easy decision because you've got to think and remember that pit stops cost money. Pit stops cost money because there are tires involved, but there's equipment for the crews, safety equipment, fire suits for all the crew that's over the wall if you're refueling a car, which you will definitely have to do in a 2-hour race. There's more crew involved, all of that, so it increases the budget. So if it's not an easy decision for the series to just simply go, oh yeah, we'll do some pit stop races. That changes things. Air guns, all that other kind of stuff that's involved in a pit stop has to be added to the budgets of these programs. But it is, in my belief, a great opportunity, again, for teams to learn a little bit more about not only multi-class racing, but in that scenario, multi-class racing in a multi-driver format, because it's going to require 2 drivers. Also gives you the opportunity to put a silver or a gold driver behind the wheel with your driver that is on their way up. So it gives you a great opportunity for perhaps your coach to race alongside you on the weekend. White flag for Valentino Catalano.
Well, here he comes again. How many times have we seen this year? Catalano with a nice comprehensive lead late in the going. It's been an untroubled run. Really wish we could have seen his teammate of the weekend, Alexander Christensen, but because he wasn't entered for the Canadian Tire Motorsport Park round, that meant he wasn't eligible for this race, which is a makeup for race 2 up in Canada. But he really seemed to be figuring things out as the weekend went along and was putting some pressure on Catalano midway through the race yesterday in race number 2. I think he would have thrived here having another race under his belt. But absent that, it's been all Catalano. And to your point, he has been really, really stout, not making mistakes and just doing what's required of him.
Think about Alexander Christensen showing up here to VIR. He picked up 4 seconds from practice to qualifying. And in one of these prototypes, so aerodynamically dependent around a racetrack, a high-speed racetrack like Virginia International Raceway, there's a lot of faith, a lot of belief you got to have in the car. And I agree with you, Ryan. I think Christensen would have been really fun to watch today, but as you said, was not on the original entry list for CTMP.
So he'll watch this race along with us and watch as Valentino Catalano negotiates the roller coaster for the final time. What a season it has been. Just a couple of races now, and it's almost a formality, Brian, as he chases his first championship in VP Racing SportsCar Challenge.
Focus has to be forward, and it is for the 19-year-old. Onto the front straightaway. 6 wins in his pocket right now. It's about to be 7. Gebhardt into the logistics. Valentino Catalano make it 3 for 3 at VIR. Impressive stuff, Ryan. Really, really impressive stuff for the team as well. And talk about impressive. What about this? The number 8 of Kiko Porto.
Yeah, this is a comprehensive win. He wasn't challenged today, which was a change from the previous 2 days, but he's gotten on top of the car. The team has as well. And for the second time this weekend, Kiko Porto wins in GSX at VIR. He takes the final 2 races of the triple header weekend.
And in GTDX, Jake Walker continues to do what he needs to do if he has any hope at all of chasing down Adam Adelson. The numbers don't look promising, but you've got to score maximum points week in and week out. A little chink in the armor that we saw today with that slight mistake. The good news for Jake Walker, he's got a great BMW underneath him. Walker onto the front straightaway, that Turner Motorsports BMW M4, not doing him wrong at all this weekend. The lights flash. Walker takes the win at VIR in the postponed race from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. So Jake Walker continues his streak of wins, 4 in a row, and he's doing everything he can to try to close down in this GTDX championship.
Amazing to think 7 wins on the season, and it might not be enough to take the championship. But again, we go back to the way the season started at Daytona. We talked about it then. It's going to be a big hole to try and dig out of. He's shoveling as hard as he can, Brian, but time's running out.
Time is running out indeed. All right, so let's take a look at the unofficial results. We talk about Catalano doing such a great job focusing forward. And here you go, Valentino Catalano, we said win number 7 on the season for that young man. Impressive stuff. Brian Thenis there in second. Jake Walker takes the win in GTDX, and Kiko Porto takes it in GSX. Those battles in GSX have been intense all weekend long, Ryan.
Yeah, they have indeed. Angus Rogers, a solid day today. Rowan Crines as well. Stephen Clements, you really got a feel for him after such good pace. Nothing to show for it here in race 3.
And disappointment for Matt Dickin and Frank Depew as well. They had some problems in the race, but hey, we move on to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, the final 2 rounds of the VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. And if you think it was exciting from Virginia International Raceway, make sure you're with us from Gainesville, Georgia. For Ryan Marine, I'm Brian Till. We'll see you next time for VP Racing SportsCar Challenge. So long, everyone.